Okay, we're going to evaluate expressions. I know. Okay, first thing, we got to get some terminology down right. Okay. So that being said, if I put up the expression okay, so we have 7f squared plus 2f plus 6. Okay, let's talk about some terminology here. Let's identify some of these things. We have something called a coefficient. We have something called a variable. We have something called a why are you not writing? A constant. I have no idea why that changed on me. Maybe it won't this time. And then we have something called a term. Coefficient, variable. Oh, I forgot my N, didn't I? Constant, sorry. C-O-N-S-T-A-N-T, sorry. Okay, does anybody know any of those? You should know one. Michael, what's one of them? All right. So the variable is the variable. That's pretty easy, right? So in this case, right, we have an f. That's our only variable. Can we have more than one variable? Sure we can. We can have many as, right? Just identify the variable that's there. Okay. So in this case, we have one variable. It's letter F. Anything else that you may know? Anything? Michael? The what? Okay, what's a coefficient? It's the number that we multiply by. Can you give me an example of a coefficient up on the board? Okay, the coefficient, it's not the number necessarily we're multiplying by, but it's the number in front of the variable. Okay, the coefficient is the number in front of the variable. So we have two of them, 7 and 2, right? So our coefficients here are 7 and 2. Right? You got to be able to identify these. These are pretty easy. Okay, now we got to identify what a constant is and a term. Anybody have any idea what those might be? Kaya? Say it again, buddy. First number of what? No. Michael? Yeah. The constant is the number, a whole number, or any number that stands by itself. Doesn't have any variables attached. Doesn't have anything. So here, the 6 is a constant. Usually constants are where? Beginning or end? Usually they're at the end, right? Usually. They don't have to be. Okay, the term. A term, because they're going to ask you, the questions are going to be how many terms are in that expression? And you're going to say 3. There's 1, there's 2, there's 3. They're all terms. Okay, 7f squared is a term. Anything that is together before an operational symbol or after one is considered a term. Does that make sense? So there we have 3 terms. Coefficients are the numbers before the variable. Variables are whatever letters of the alphabet are in our expression. Constant is a number that stands alone. And a term is a collection of coefficients, variables together, right? Separated by operational symbols. So far, so good. Right? That's pretty simple stuff. Okay, moving on. What is the difference between an expression and an equation? Ryan? Nah, not. Okay, big difference there. Okay, an expression. An expression is simply made up of numbers and operational symbols. Notice what it doesn't have in there. It doesn't have an equal sign. Okay, nothing is equal. You get multiple answers. When we get to chapter 7, we'll really talk about the difference. We're not there yet. Equations have the same thing as expressions, but the difference oh boy. Try to do the best I can here. The difference is they have an equal sign. That's the difference. Okay, but today we're just concerned with our expressions. So far, so good? Okay. Let's talk about the different kinds of expressions. Okay. We can add an addition expression, x plus 7. Or, what else could we say? 7 plus x. Addition can go either way. You can write it forwards or backwards. I hate to say backwards, but that's the way that it is. Okay, because 3 plus 2 is 5, and 2 plus 3 is 5, and 2 plus 3 and 3 plus 2. They all equal the same thing. Addition is nice. It can go either way. Subtraction. Q minus 7. Can we write it 7 minus Q and get the same answer? No, we cannot. We cannot. Okay. So you cannot switch subtraction. Okay. So far, so good. The way the subtraction equation is written is the way that you have to keep it. All right, we're going to skip multiplication. We'll come back to it. Don't worry, because that's the hardest one. Division. Okay, we can have K divided by 4. You can have it written like that. Or you can have K divided by 4. Remember we talked about the division, the way that it looks? Cole, you might want to write this stuff down. Horizontally or vertically. Okay. So far, so good. All right, multiplication. This one is the hardest one. No, it's not because you're multiplying. But what do you notice on those 3? Do you notice the operational symbol there? Yes? Right? So when you want to add, you have add. You have an add symbol. When you want to subtract, you have a subtraction symbol. When you want to divide, you have a division symbol. Well, guess what there's not in multiplication? There's no sign to help you. When you write multiplication, it would simply look like 7p. The constant or the coefficient is right next to the variable. In the world of mathematics, okay, and this is everything going forward as well, there is no sign in between. Everybody knows in the world of algebra, when you get there, that a number next to a letter means multiplication. Okay? You will sometimes, very seldom, but you will sometimes see that. Anybody know what that dot has a name? It means multiplication, but it technically has a name. It's called a raised dot. Because if it wasn't raised, it would look like a what? Like a decimal. That's exactly correct. Okay, so they call it a raised dot. So sometimes you will see that expressed. Okay, don't be confused. That means multiplication. Is that the best way to write it? The answer is no. The first way, 7p, is the best way to write it, is the way that you're going to see it. Okay? You also may see something that looks like this. 7 parentheses p. Okay, have you seen that before? Yes? You should have a little bit, right? Okay, when there is a number next to parentheses, it means to multiply. So you may see that. What you're not going to see is something that looks like this. What's the matter with that? Max? Okay. Yeah, very good, sir. Okay, so 7xp. You don't know if that x is a variable or a multiplication sign. Right? Because we're coming to the point, we're going to get there quickly, that's 7 times a number times another number. Okay? X is the most commonly used variable in mathematics. Try not to use it when you get to pick a variable, because a lot of people think that it's a multiplication symbol. Use something else. Okay, so this is not good. Oops. That's not good. Okay, when you have and you're trying to solve these, okay, let's say we have 7p. Let's say p is equal to 2. When you plug it in, do we want to do that? Look at my answer down there, 772. Is that good? No, because 7 times 2 is not 72. When you substitute a number in for a variable, what should you put around the number that you are substituting in? What do you got? Parentheses. That is correct. You should put parentheses in there. That tells you, the reader, that it's not 72, it's 14. Now, here's the thing. You have to know that this is the hardest one. Don't ask me why. I wish I could tell you. My only gut feeling through the years is that there is no indication of what to do. Right? When you see the add, subtract, and division, you know to add, subtract, and divide. When it comes to multiplication, there's no sign there to remind you that it's multiplication. Okay? I'm just giving you a heads up. And throughout the year, you'll notice I will always try to tell you where children through the years have made their boo-boos. Okay, so maybe you can be conscious of that as we go through. All right, so far so good?
So, like, for the first question, when you had like 7f squared and like 2f, would that mean like if 7 and f were together and then there's a sign, does that mean they're not multiplied, or like, because like if they're together and then there's a sign, does that mean it's 7f, or does it mean 7 times?
This one here, Ryan?
Yeah.
Okay, so give me, what do you mean?
Be right next to the letter, so would that still be like 7f, like them together, or would that be like 7 times like f squared plus 2 times f plus 6?
Okay, I got you. I think. Let's talk about that. Okay, so let's say f is equal to 2. Let's make this simple, right? So we have 7, 2 squared plus 2f plus 6, right? You plug it in. Now, we haven't even talked about this, but what do you got to do next? Which we're getting here really shortly in this week. How would you, I don't necessarily want the answer, but what would you follow in order to answer that question? Zach? Yeah, the order of operations. Remember that please excuse my dear Aunt Sally thing? Okay, that's how you would answer that. Okay, but we're not there yet. We're solving simpler one at the moment. Good question though. That was really good. All right, here we go. So let's put up a few, right? So simple. So if we have k plus 10, right? That's an expression. You have a number, an operational symbol, and a constant. Right? That's what makes up an expression. Okay, and then they'll have like a semicolon, and they'll have to tell you k is equal to 25. Okay, so you plug in 25 where the variable goes, right? That's simple. So you, oh, come on. So you plug in. Maybe. $25 plus 10, and you get a whopping 35. Okay, we're not going to spend too much time on addition because it's pretty easy, right? Everybody good? Okay, so then you may have some that look like this. For n, where n is equal to 12. Please do not write 412. That would not be good for obvious reasons, right? Okay, what kind of an expression do we have here? Masa? Multiplication. So when I go plug it in, my problem really is 4 times 12. Gives me what? There you go, buddy. Good job. 48. So far, so good. Okay. Then you might get ones that look like this. What happens if you get an A divided by B? Uh-oh, there's no numbers, Mr. Fisher. I know, they got to give them to you. A is equal to 27. B is equal to 3. Uh-oh, should I dare ask? Which one is the divisor? Let's see how many of you studied over to Grant knows. B is your divisor. Always the second one. Okay, now you got to plug in your numbers. 27 divided by 3 gives us what? That's where you got to know your facts. Tyler? 9. That is correct. So B, oh, sorry, B is not. Your answer here is 9. That is correct. Okay, so you got a combination of variables, all variables. You got a combination of multiplication, got a combination of addition. Okay, those are the easy ones. Okay. Here goes a little bit of the harder ones. So, oh, come on. So now, what's special about this one? Steven? Are you Steven? What's your name? No. Grayson, sorry. Sorry, Grayson. What's special about this one that we haven't seen yet? Okay, there's 2 operations going on here. You're multiplying and subtracting. Yeah, you are. Yeah, X is a variable. You got to substitute something in for X. Yeah, but what does 3 next to a variable mean? Ah, I see, said the light bulb. Okay, so we got to plug in 5 So far, so good. Okay. Now, I'm assuming you know a little bit about the order of operations, yes? Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, right? Got to multiply first here, right? So we get 15 minus 14 is going to give us 1. That's how you would solve that. That's a two-stepper. It's got 2 operations in there. So far, so good. Okay. Moving right along. Okay. Again, I'm assuming that you know something about exponents, yes? Yes or no? Okay. So this is z squared plus 8 and 5/10. What's the difference up on the board between the z and the 2? In the world of math, this is what we do so you can determine whether it's a variable or the number 2. What's the difference up there? Emma? Say it again. What's the difference between the 2 and the variable up on the board? Michael? All right, there's a line through the 2. Okay, in the world of math, we will always put a line through the variable so you know that it's a z, not a 2. We don't put lines through numbers. Okay? So that's a variable. So now we got to plug it in. So now we get 2. Whoa, what happened there? I don't know. So now we get 2 squared. Now, what does 2 squared look like? Is that multiplication, add? What do we do to those? Ryan, do you know? That's exactly what it is. So you take the number here, that's called your base number. You multiply it by the exponent. So here we get 4 plus 8.5, which is going to give us 12 and 5/10. So far, so good. Okay. I didn't lose anybody yet, did I? Okay. Next one. So now we have that's a t. T divided by 5 plus 6. Where t, that's a lowercase t, by the way, is equal to 45. Okay, so we plug in 45 where t goes. What are you going to do first? Divide or add? Divide. What's 45 divided by 5? 9. So we get 9 plus 6. That's going to yield us a 15. So far, so good. Okay. Here comes the good news. Last one. V squared minus 4. V is equal to 9. All right, what do we got to do first? Remember that, Grant? Okay, no, we don't want to multiply 9 by 2. The 9 goes in there, 9 squared. Okay, when you have an exponent, that exponent tells you how many times you're going to multiply the base number by itself. So this is 9 times 9. All right, that's our little exponent lesson. the variable, I'm sorry, the exponent tells you how many times you're going to multiply the 9 or the base number by itself. So 9 times 9 is 81. Minus 4 gives us 77. Do we need a quick exponent lesson? I think we do, right? Okay, let me ask you this then. What if it's 2 to the third power? Okay, on. No. We need an exponent lesson. Not 6. Dean? Okay, look here. Look what I just said. The exponent tells you how many times you're going to multiply. This is the big number here is called the base number. How many times you're going to multiply that by itself? So this is 2 times 2 times 2. See that 3 there? That's 1, 2, 3. Now you multiply them together. 2 times 2 is 4. Times 2, you get 8. Does that make sense? Yes? Right? If it's squared, right, which is a 2, you just multiply that number by itself. If it's cubed, which is 3, you got to now multiply it 3 times together. Does that make sense? Any questions on evaluating expressions? Add, subtract, multiply, divide? Mason. That one right there, buddy? Yeah. You got it. Any questions before we move on? Going once? Going twice? So,